So, Anna, thank you so much for joining us and helping me with this, my Master's of Science in Marketing program. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we're high school alumni from Our Lady of Lourdes Academy, Miami, so we're very excited they're able to join us and help me on this series. And this series I'm starting with interviewing marketers.
Happy to be here. It's exciting. I've had a long career with Assurant, and then a couple other consumer brands prior to that. But getting ready to wrap up my journey, and so I've had hopefully numerous different experiences that will help out. So
yes. Well, I'm going to go into that, but I want to again introduce you to everybody again. Ana Rojas, Phil Ben. I remember saying it right. Vice President of Integrated Marketing Solutions for Assurant. Plus 24 years in the industry, amazing career. And you started like me, graphic design.
Yep.
I have an affinity for that. Yep. That's how we started. Not really started as marketers, we do marketing.
Definitely not.
But this is really interesting, the progression of your career. So we're excited because I really want to start for my company, PIL, a little interview thing, like once a month interview marketers where I can learn and my employees can learn, as well as the clients and the people in my industry. So that was one of the questions I have, Anna. So you have been with Assurant for quite some time. Can you briefly explain what you do at Assurant and how your area of integrated marketing has changed over the years, especially with digital marketing, which is what I'm studying right now?
Yeah, so if you could think back 24 years ago, if you could even think back that far, the industry, the creative and the marketing industry was completely different. So I would say of all the industries that have evolved and had to have the greatest change, it was absolutely in the creative area. And so when I joined the company, we had pretty big creative team, which included your traditional designers, traditional copywriters. You didn't really refer to copywriters as content people because we just called them copywriters, right? And their output generally was pretty traditional medium in terms of whether it was physical printed material and or some sort of training material. We had a full, really a beautiful studio. Again, very traditional. We were still shooting film. We had original Hasselblad studio, which was, one of the best in the country. Our founder had invested and really believed that if he created a solid creative team, that he could get into the doors of clients that had major agencies on record by offering them our support at no charge. So he really gave us an opportunity to invest in the best in class. But again, at the time, you were talking about very traditional mediums. Our studio, if you think back, photography, beautiful studio, beautiful recording studio. Now it's a green screen studio. Back then, it was just a traditional role play studio where we could shoot. And when I say, you're talking about 20-foot ceilings with recording booths. Just the whole gamut. And so, it did give us the opportunity, which was his goal all along, to get our foot in the door. So when we were pitching a big bank, we were trying to run a campaign that was specific to the unique products that we were offering at the time. The majority of the products at the time were based on credit insurance, which most people have never even heard of at this point. Back then, it was the basis for this, Fortune 500 company.
Right. Yeah.
But the big banks, the Chase Manhattans of the world, they all had their agencies of record. So they, in order for us to get in and say, hey, we've got this great product, we know how to market it, you had to also do the marketing for them. And so little by little, we were able to secure just major financial institutions that were selling credit insurance as part of their bundle to their consumers. And then we in turn provided the marketing advertising support.
Now the marketing advertising came from like let's say it was like a company like let's say Macy's or whatever or a financial institution. Mm-hmm. You would contact Macy's clientele.
Macy's is a good one, yeah. So
I heard from some of you.
So if you had retailers, right? All the retailers, most of the retailers had credit cards. Everybody was promoting their own branded cards,
right?
Back then. And so it was the point in time where if you got a Macy's card and you extended your credit, right? And then you lost your job, you were responsible for the money you had borrowed from Macy's to shop, right? And so what we would do is we would also offer credit insurance on all of those retail cards. And so the way we would do it is we would get into the mailing system. So at that point in time, you would get a bill from Macy's. It came in an envelope. Normally, if you remember back then, they had these we called them a bank tail. It was a tail that flipped over. You'd write your check, you'd pay it.
Yeah, from travel, that was big. Like it was the bill.
It was a bill statement inside those special
artwork. Bill statement artwork. We did a ton of those for Norwegian Cruise Line, for sure.
So we would create the offer on there, and then for X amount of, it was a percentage of your debt. That's how we would determine the cost of the insurance. Then if you lost your job or if there was a life event of some sort, you could fall back, and then what is Assurant now, at the time it was American Bankers, would be responsible to cover that debt, right?
Yeah.
Up to, I believe it was, depending on the account, up to about 6 months. So that's how it started. But the banks and the retailers, they weren't familiar with that type of insurance. So that's where we were able to kind of carve out that niche, where the salespeople would basically say, you know what, let us show you what a marketing tool could look like. And then in some cases, it was very costly for retailers that are dropping 1 million, 2 million pieces every month. I mean, some of them were millions upon millions.
Right.
So we would have a partnership, whether we did the artwork and then either gave them the printed, we called them buck slips at the time, where there'd be a buck slip inside that would allow you to sign and basically join this credit protection program.
Right.
So
fill it in and send it in, right?
Exactly. So it was kind of all at the same time, right? So there was this there was very new product in the financial industry, and at the same time, our industry, the marketing and creative industry, was changing tenfold, incredibly fast. So when I joined, we weren't, I came from Alamo. At Alamo, we had created the first true Apple design team. Apple had just come into the picture, had installed the first team of Apple services, and then when I joined American Bankers, we were able to transition from your traditional computers to what was the Mac at the time, right?
Let me tell you, I remember American Bankers, and I tried to apply there. It was the best graphic design in-house agency in Miami.
We were so lucky. I was so lucky.
The top and designers working for you, because you guys I remember you guys did creative, like it was your information, because these companies couldn't do the technical information.
Right.
So you could do the artwork for everybody, but then you put their logos, you know what I mean? It's kind of
I
went the travel route, but I remember I had an interview at American Bankers, but at the time I worked in-house at Norwegian Cruise Line, so I went to travel route, I go American Bankers.
That's the thing.
It was a killer job for a graphic designer.
I mean, it took me a while too. I was with Alamo, and our budgets, being a consumer brand, were much deeper.
I didn't realize that I didn't remember.
Yeah.
But we went through the transition of, let's just say, what I just went to the Emerge conference, which is amazing. I recommend that I know you're going to be retired, but it's great learning experience, because just to keep abreast of everything. But one of them was playing what's Web3? Okay, so you guys went through Web2. So you were at basically Web1, which was when we did everything by paper, and we used the programs, and we just print everything out, and there would be overlays and whatever. That was our Web1. Then we did Web2, which is where now, which is what you were transitioning, you were talking about right now. And then Web3 is a whole other thing. So right now we're in the whole Web2 phase, and you were at the beginning Web2 phase. We're the first. And
I mean the big transition, not only from a creative perspective, because you were hiring designers that were trained, were very academically trained on design, but then you needed to have them sort of that enough curiosity to be able to really start taking in kind of the digital opportunities.
Absolutely.
So some made it, and frankly, some we had to just basically assign to. We had a group which we called. It was it was the equivalent in an agency of a bullpen. We called them our I think it was the speed
production.
It was like a production, right? But on the design side, right? Speed lane, we used to call them. And they basically, the designers, copywriters would prepare the art.
the art directors
begin the work and then turn it over to speed lane. And then in that area, what we would do is we would brand it, right? So we'd have templates that were tested. So we tested everything.
Yeah.
So templates that were tested, proven masters, and then we take that masters, that's what we would present to the clients. And then we basically would customize it based on either the bank's brand and or the retailer's brand, or sometimes the mortgage company's brands. And so it just became a little factory, right?
But it was brilliant because no insurance company was going to.
No, that was a thing.
Creator. That was like a real niche. It was very creative. I remember Barry was very innovative in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And our founder was a genius.
Yeah.
Right. So he was truly a genius. And so it started there.
It's important branding. Like, yeah, you have your insurance, you have your papers, your basic forms, but like branding is so important, to spread the word and get the word out and stuff.
Yeah. So we started there, and then we started, kind of the evolution, right? The emerging technology really started to take over. And we jumped on. The first thing was the studio had to change. E-learning had to change. But we were able to kind of lead the effort. We were grandfathered sort of in that I could have a Mac department. We had thousands of employees around the world. But I was the only one who could actually buy a Mac and could not maintain any of the archiving on the master systems. We just were prevented from doing that because the IT security controls at that point in time, they couldn't really figure out how to transition that into the Mac environment. And so then we just started building out from there and got heavily involved in the new technology at the time. It started with Quark, and then of course now it's InDesign, but there was the transition of, the tools. Photoshop came late, right? You were still working with a lot of the printers to really just literally alter the film to look the way you wanted it. So it was a great transition. We didn't just survive, we thrived, right? So, but we took lots of risks, You
have to say, you have a great testimony, a great story. Like, you've really been from, let's say, Web 1 to the Web 2, like, and learning that aspect of what do you do with the data? Like, we didn't have analytics back then. We were just we kind of had like some phone data. People call 1-800 number or whatever. But like now with the extension, but like now the amount of information you guys get, I mean, it's a lot of pressure, I think, for vice president, like to
it's really so much about the data, right?
It's all about the data.
And you still get the marketers that are just reacting on a gut feel, right? I feel like this is what the consumers want to buy.
Do you think? I don't know so much now.
And it's just a crazy approach because the data is going to tell you what the consumers want to buy. You can test, but the data is still what's going to tell you, are the consumers willing to buy it? Are they willing to buy it with that app? Do they still prefer a hybrid experience where I do my research on my phone, but then I go to the store? How does that consumer really want to experience your brand? Is what should be driving the opportunity.
And for phones, these young people, they're going to research like, okay, should I get a Assurant or Assurant or whatever, or Apple thing? They're researching that stuff.
Completely.
And so you really changed your website to be very responsive.
And I think our website still has a long way to go because it's hard to find the products because we had to create it so that because we're B2B first, so it's kind of B2B, and then it's more B2B than B2C, but it has B2C tone,
And
so it's a little bit. It's what?
I like the storytelling aspect you have on what you do. I'm clicking on it right now. And like, okay, how do what are the different things, how you impact, the solutions and who we are, because I was like, I didn't realize it was American Bankers. Like, it's like, how you pioneered. I think it's very super user friendly and very responsive. I did look at it 11 times at night.
The other thing is that the whole aspect of storytelling became a lot more powerful with social media, right? So the first time we really went into a big storytelling pitch was we created personas, right? The personas that we believed were appropriate for the products we were selling. In some cases, when you walked into the store, if you remember Radio Shack, right? If you walked into a Radio Shack, we had created scorecards because the e-learning department reported into me. We had created scorecards, right? So that you could score the person walking in. So for example, you see a young woman, middle of the day, holding a baby, you know she's a mom, you assume she's a mom, right?
Yeah.
So you assume her needs might be a little different. We identified how we believed. Now this is just specific to one product line. This is just around mobile.
Your KPIs.
What's that?
Your objectives, your KPIs, right? Your
Right. Correct. So we, identified, what would success look like for us? What would success look like for the consumer? What's the persona we want to reach? Which is the most profitable personas? Because we may have buyers that we don't want to buy our products, right? Because keep in mind, there's still, it's still insurance. Or it was at the time. Now we have all kinds of other programs. At the time it was insurance. And so you don't want to get, the 18-year-old that keeps dropping their phone, in the pool, right? You don't back then. Or you don't want to have as much of that as you do the person that's a little more balanced in terms of how they use their phone. So we created these personas, and the stories were fantastic. So we would create these stories and we would build out these people. So we started with soccer mom. Soccer mom has to pick up the kids at school, get them back home, give them their snacks, pack their stuff, get them to practice, hang out at practice while trying to get everything else she needs to have done, then get them after practice, get them back home, feed them, start homework, blah, blah, blah. So we would have these personas and we would create these stories. They were really cool. And when we would pitch them, we would basically have these, we were using a lot of Prezi at the time, but really you could do it with PowerPoint.
Yeah,
you could click on an event, right? So mom leaves the house, forgot she left the phone on top of the car, phone gets destroyed, can't find it, what now? Or she'd go through the whole process, and so we would create these really kind of fun personas that people could connect with, right? Single guy, working late, needs to schedule, needs to book a restaurant, kind of. So there were different.
Always dating, has a schedule, that stuff, yeah.
So we started to build out these storylines and just tell these kind of intimate stories that helped clients understand how real it was, because, hey, either their wife was a soccer mom or their son was, just starting his first job at E&Y, or, so they were really, just clever little ways to connect. And then from there, really, Patsy, everything is around telling the story,
I think
being able to engage,
being able to. This is information, this aggregated information you can give to your it's B2B. So you give them to
right.
T-Mobile, whatever, and then like I've even seen a T-Mobile or like the Assurant poster. So because you can get Select and not get Assurant or whatever insurance.
Oh, yeah.
You have to sell that too, and these stories are important because like these kids will, and I say kids, they're millennials already, like 30 something, they will research and see what's better.
Oh, yeah.
Apple Care or whatever, or any kind of, and the things that you start them at the age of 18. Yes, I know they might drop their phone 50 times, but if you start them at the age of 18, they grow to understand. Maybe they'll grow to a business person, and they'll be obviously they can afford phones, so eventually they're educated, so they're going to be able to move on to that aspect where they can be in a business, and then maybe they can know that name.
And to your point, I shouldn't say that we don't want those types of consumers. We just want to be smart about how you price products, right, for those consumers, because you're right. Once they become loyal.
Yeah. Now,
the other thing we're finding is that age group is not as loyal as we would have been, right? Which is kind of, that part's interesting too. So the sense of loyalty has also changed. But if you can hook them right into the benefits, then you've really won them. For example, now we've got so if you look at Pocket Geek Home, that's one of our new home products. And it's part of a series. We've launched a repair, I'm going to call it a repair station in Europe called Pocket Geek Tech Repair. We've got all kinds of Pocket Geek lines out there. Anyhow,
training
in the case of Pocket Geek Home, for a flat fee, what's that?
And you also do training gaming tools.
Well, that we do and I'll talk about that, and then I've got to go in a little bit, Patsy.
No, you let me know.
So in the case of Pocket Geek Home, now that we've got you, so now you're familiar with Assurance, you've got your phones protected through us. We want you to feel that same benefit in your entire house. So you pay us a fee. Right now it's $24.99. We're looking at, we'll bring that down once we have the right number mix of customers, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, for that amount, we're going to cover every connected device in your entire house. Your entire house.
But how do you get the information? Okay, so they're a T-Mobile client, right?
These are direct. So right now we're selling that direct. We're testing it direct. We will be selling it through.
How are you going direct? But were you getting the client? I mean, it's just
off the website right now. We're starting to sell it through utility companies. Okay. We're starting to sell it. There's a big brand that we just won, which I can't disclose yet. And the goal is that they'll make it one of their offers.
Could you offer? Okay, so T-Mobile has a slew of clients. You can't contact them directly. No. But could you contact them and for information about their insurance?
Only if they agree.
And if they get on your website, then they're free game. Right?
Only if they agree, right? But you have to have. We won't do that. We're super protective of our clients. But we do have an opportunity through our renters insurance program. So like my daughter got to Gainesville, she had to have insurance for her apartment. You buy Assurance renters insurance. It's a phenomenal program.
But you do that through the renter.
This one is direct. You just go to Assurance Renters. I think it's AssuranceRenters.com.
Ryan, it needs that. Yeah.
It's so much cheaper. Cheaper.
I mean, that should be definitely going to students in their pockets and stuff like that.
That's where you have to contract for that with universities. We have some that we were testing,
right?
But that's a really tight group to get in, but that's a big one for us. But anyhow, at the close of that sale, when I put in my credit card information, it could then cross sell you to Pocket Geek Home, because once I have you, right, and if you were to purchase Pocket Geek Home through a sort of a scanning process, I can scan your house and I know everything that's connected.
Wow.
And then I protect it, right? So then as a company, you as a consumer now are protected. If, we're looking at programs or testing some programs, if you were an Airbnb provider, or vacations by owner, that sort of thing.
And it's on Pocket Geek Home. I'm going to look at that.
Yeah. Pocket Geek Home. But we also just are looking at the whole shared economy and how to offer protection within a shared economy, whether it's, through the cars or the homes, or we're just exploring. I mean, so many people are exploring the whole shared economy.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think it's great.
And then the last piece I'm going to tell you, and then I've got to.
No, don't worry.
Wrap it up soon, Patsy, is
one thing
in terms of everybody. Go ahead.
Dan, what do you want to leave? What's your legacy? What are you leaving with? I know you're.
Oh, okay, I'll give you that. I will give you that. So before that, I will say that in terms of what you were saying, that the younger customers or consumers do a lot of research on their phones or whatever connected devices. That's validated, right? But the way we have built on that is we believe that it's the right thing, but that it is an opportunity to connect with the right type of consumer and the right type of employee by really beefing up how we think about sustainability and how we think about our communities, right? So sustainability is huge for us in terms of, we believe that we are helping, keeping content out of landfills through our programs. In terms of just the sustainability carrying over into the communities, we believe that we've been a very successful company, and we owe it to our communities to give back. And so we have a big foundation, and we support the local communities, and we allow the employees to support the local communities. We give them 8 hours of volunteer time. We'll pay for their time. It doesn't matter if they're an executive or a call center person, which you would never hear that a call center would let their employees sit out for 8 hours, unheard of. So we really encourage that. But then we also encourage just participation in local community events, and really believe that's at the heart of what we do.
I don't get that on the website. That's what I was looking. I was going to ask you, where's your where's your, maybe it's a different landing page or something, but that's important to like know. I mean, a lot of, as you know,
Yeah, it's just
true.
important for the next generation, right? So
You've been doing it. American Banker came from American Bankers. They were always involved in the volunteer work.
so yeah, so you'll see like at FIU, we I think our name is still on one of the big conference rooms. We did, when it was American Bankers, we did the aviary at the zoo. Kirk Landon was a huge proponent, huge, of the sustainability efforts. I was big on.
It's almost like, could you put, I mean, not that you want to promote it for self-serving, but like just to create awareness on social media, and then the B2B is just.
We do that. You'll see a lot of that, right? So that's where a lot of the social media comes in. So we're huge on Habitat for Humanity. But Miracle League was another one that I was able to really start from the beginning, which now they have a full field in Tamiami for not just children, but primarily children that have restricted mobility.
Yeah.
Who are severely impacted by some medical condition. And so you can literally play ball, baseball, softball, whatever. And the turf, like the sand, is actually hard. So you can roll them on their wheelchairs or whatever. It's really cool. So that was called Miracle League. So locally we have the Miracle League, Habitat for Humanity, United Way, and Make-A-Wish are 4 big ones for us.
Which I think you did Habitat with my sister, because I think you guys would go and, I don't know, I remember her.
We do it every year. Yeah. I'll continue to do it too.
But so
once I retire,
there's your legacy.
Yeah, I'll definitely continue. To do that. I'm on the board for the Actors Playhouse, which we were big supporters of that. And I just talked to them. I'll be able to stay on the board. I don't have to be the Assurant representative. They're going to extend a seat for that board. But what I would say, and I just met with my group, I was just in Atlanta last night. I think the most important, and COVID really, I think, had an impact on our relationships, both with our colleagues and with our clients and with our vendors, right?
Yeah.
And I think, if I could just have one advice, the business, always do right by the consumer. Everything should begin and end with the consumer, and you can't assume that creating significant profit from a consumer and not driving value, that's sustainable. So always everything begins and ends with the consumer. And then just from a personal employee side, what I would say is, and I tell people all the time, is you have to treat everybody the same, regardless of where their box is on the organizational chart, right? Whether it's at the very bottom of that chart or at the very top, right? It's so critical that you respect everybody the same way.
Absolutely.
What I have found is, and I think COVID may have made it a little bit worse, is people have really created skills to manage up, and they do that well because they get recognized that way. But then your bottom layer, is affected in a way that's not the best outcome. It's not optimal.
Which is where you started with graphic design, and how how you got.
And if you think about it now,
now
that bottom layer has choices. Before they didn't have as many choices. Now they have choices. Now they could work anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter where they live, right? So when you say, the labor pool in Atlanta is really good, but I live in Miami. Well, guess what? I don't have to move to Atlanta. So the people in the organizational chart at the bottom have a lot of power. And so should never, ever think about treating them different than the top of the box, right?
So true. Thank you.
I would say.
Amazing. But Anna, thank you. So I know it takes so much, but
but Patsy, if you need anything else, just call me. I just, next week I'm traveling to my daughter.
So let's end this. Thank you, Anna, for joining us. I'm just going to stop.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good one. Call me if you need anything.